Hey everyone, and welcome back to The Explainer. Today we're diving into a huge overhaul of a really powerful economic tool. It's called Opportunity Zones 2.0, and it just took a temporary tax break and made it a permanent part of the American economy. So let's get into what that actually means. And that's the big question here, right? What really happens when a program that was designed as a temporary experiment gets locked into the tax code forever? The ripple effects are huge for investors, for developers, and of course, for the very communities these zones are supposed to be helping.
Okay, but before we jump into all the new stuff, we've got to do a quick refresher on the original program, what we'll call OZ 1.0. You have to know where we've been to understand where we're going.
So, at its heart, what is an opportunity zone? It's basically a tool for place-based investment. The government points to certain economically struggling areas on a map and says, hey, if you invest your money here through a special fund, we'll give you some really nice tax breaks. This whole thing came out of the 2017 Tax Cuts and Jobs Act, and the goal was to get money flowing into places that were getting left behind. For investors, the original deal was, honestly, pretty sweet. It was a simple three-step. First, if you sold something like stock and made a profit, a capital gain, you could put off paying taxes on that gain if you rolled it into a qualified opportunity fund. Step 2, hold on to that investment for 5 years, and boom, you get a 10% discount on the tax you eventually have to pay. But the grand prize, the real kicker, was Step 3. Hold it for 10 years, and any new money you make on that investment is 100% tax-free. Yeah, zero. All right, so what's the big deal with version 2.0? Well, the changes come from new legislation signed in July of 2025. And the single biggest change, the one that changes the entire game, is that this program isn't temporary anymore. It is now a permanent fixture in the U.S. tax code. Okay, so let's break this down. The original program, OZ 1.0, had a ticking clock, an expiration date. OZ 2.0 gets rid of that clock. It's permanent. This means we now have rolling 5-year deferrals. So an investor can jump in at any time from now on and still get that tax deferral benefit. And remember that 10% tax discount we talked about? The technical term is a basis step up. Well, that's now a permanent feature of the program too.
And you can bet the investment world was thrilled. I mean, this quote really says it all. Making this permanent gives developers and big-time investors the kind of long-term certainty they absolutely need to plan those huge, multi-year projects. It's a game changer for them.
All right, now this next part is really interesting. The new law carves out a special focus for a part of the country that the original program, frankly, often struggled to reach: rural America.
They did this by creating something totally new, the Qualified Rural Opportunity Fund, or QROF for short. Think of these like super-powered OZ funds, designed specifically to lure capital into designated rural communities by, well, sweetening the pot for anyone willing to invest there.
And when I say they sweetened the pot, I mean they really sweetened it. Instead of that standard 10% tax discount after 5 years, if you invest in a rural QROF, you get a massive 30% discount. Plus, it eases up on a huge rule for developers. Usually, to get the tax break, you have to substantially improve a property, which means doubling its value. For rural projects, you only have to increase its value by half. That is a huge deal and makes a lot more projects financially possible.
But, nothing's ever that simple. With all this permanence and these supercharged benefits, there had to be a catch, right? Well, there was. The new law also brings in some long overdue guardrails, way more transparency, and a much, much smaller map to play on.
So, what are you looking at here? Negative 22%. What is that? Well, that's the nationwide drop in the number of places that are even eligible to be opportunity zones anymore. Why? Because the government got a lot stricter about what actually counts as a low-income community. So let's talk about the new rules of the road. First up, something critics have been screaming for years: mandatory reporting. We're finally going to get actual data on where the money is going and what it's doing. Second, like we just said, the income rules to qualify as a distressed area got tighter, which shrinks the map. And third, a special rule that basically let all of Puerto Rico be an opportunity zone. That's gone. Now it has to play by the same rules as every state. And if you want to see what that really looks like, just check out this chart for Puerto Rico. The change is, wow, it's stark. Under the original program, the island had more than 700 opportunity zones. Under the new rules, that number is expected to plummet to around 175. That is a massive reduction.
Okay, but making the program permanent didn't magically fix everything. In fact, it created some new headaches and left some big, old questions unanswered.
So, one of the weirdest immediate problems is this thing people are calling the investment dead zone.
Picture this. You're an investor, you've got a capital gain in 2026. You're stuck. The old program's benefits have already expired for any new investments. But the new OZ 2.0 benefits, they don't even start until January 1st, 2027. So you've got this huge incentive to just sit on your money and wait. And that could stall new projects for an entire year.
And this brings us back to the biggest, longest-running criticism of the whole program, something that the new law doesn't really fix. As this quote gets at, the worry has always been that these tax breaks just end up fueling gentrification, that they attract investment that pushes out the very people who were already living there instead of actually helping them. The new law demands more data, sure, but it doesn't fundamentally change the investment structure to tackle that problem head-on.
So, at the end of the day, that leaves us with the big one, the question that really matters. Opportunity zones are no longer just an experiment. They are a permanent feature of our economic landscape. But is this incredibly powerful tool going to build wealth for the communities it's targeting, or just build wealth for investors within those communities? Only time and all that new data we're about to get will tell the tale. Thanks for joining us for The Explainer.